You know, something I feel is really important when reviewing anything is to judge whatever you're reviewing both in context and out of context. Let me explain. If one is critiquing something older, yet only looks at it through a modern lens and fails to understand what led to its creation and the circumstances in which it was released, I think they've made a mistake. Because something could totally have been revolutionary at release, but the evolution of technology may have made it difficult to tell so. At the same time, the way culture has since shifted and reacted to said thing is relevant when considering how people will receive it today. That all being said, there are some things, whether game, book, or film, that transcend those limits and are eternally recognizable as great and fantastic. That were legendary at the time and still are now. That much was to be learned from at the time and can still be learned from now. That were, are, and will always be pretty rad and a joy to experience. Hello, welcome to H7 Bus. My name is Nathaniel Welch, and this is Few Minute Movie Critic. I am not a movie critic, but for the next few minutes, I'm going to pretend to be while I answer 8 questions on my way to rate a movie. Starting with... Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, originally simply titled Star Wars, was released a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Or, in other words, on May 25th, 1977. First being shown at a few theaters, and then more and more and more, it ended up becoming a much bigger success than anyone expected. It won so many awards, made a bunch of money, was very well liked, and was revolutionary for the film industry because of its special effects, pace, and plenty else. It's got a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 90 out of 100 on Metacritic, with almost all reviews obviously being done in retrospect. A New Hope is thought to be one of the greatest movies of all time, and from it has spawned a massive giant of a franchise made up of more films and many games, books, and TV shows, as well as lots of merchandise. Star Wars is about a kid from a sand planet, space wizards, and the conflict between a rebellion and the empire that they are rebelling against. Our story begins as this galactic civil war starts to take off. The evil empire has created a super powerful, super dangerous moon-sized space station. As part of their mission to restore peace and freedom to the galaxy, the rebellion has obtained a copy of the moon-sized space station's blueprints and hopes to use them to find a weakness. The Empire obviously doesn't want that to happen, so while en route to Rebel HQ, the blueprint-carrying ship of Princess Leia Organa is intercepted and commandeered by the Empire. However, before the plans could be found, the princess gave them to a droid named R2-D2, who, along with his hilarious also droid buddy C-3PO, managed to dodge the grip of the Empire by leaving the ship via escape pod. Having been in an orbit around a planet named Tatooine, the droid duo arrive on the surface and after some antics and hijinks, end up in the care of a local 19-year-old moisture farmer named Luke Skywalker. Luke discovers that R2 is also on a mission to find an old Jedi Knight master named Obi-Wan Kenobi, whose knightly order had been eradicated by the Empire. Luke kind of knows him, and after some other crazy stuff goes down, the four, joined by a confident, witty smuggler named Han Solo and his off-brand Sasquatch co-pilot Chewbacca, depart Tatooine on a quest to save Princess Leia and eventually the galaxy. It's all pretty iconic and pretty incredible. I love the simple yet timeless story A New Hope tells. It's grandiose yet grounded, it's inspiring yet light, it's confident yet consumable, and while throwing so much new at you, remains fun. It really is just a very fun movie that was made for 12-year-olds, but is still able to be enjoyed by those younger and older. It's got cool heroes and bombastic villains, and it's full of starships and laser guns with a little bit of laser sword in there. It isn't empty. It's compelling and engaging while being romantic and adventurous. Star Wars was lightning in a bottle, and it's just as deep as it is enjoyable. My favorite scene is 27. I would totally be down to own a land speeder like Luke's in real life, assuming it wasn't too expensive to charge, and I have no problem with the fact that nowadays Han Solo did not shoot first. Moving on. A New Hope shows its age, but I think it does so pretty gracefully. If you are one of the few that hasn't seen it, know that its degree of datedness should have no effect on your ability to enjoy it, unless you're afraid of motion control photography or something. It's pretty awesome, all they were able to do with both a limited budget and the technological restrictions of the time. The opening crawl is super cool, and the beginning sequence on Tantive 4 is super interesting. In general, A&H's cuts are great, its action is tasteful, and it's got a nice rhythm to it. And the effects are still pretty satisfactory. There are some special edition ones that feel immersion breaking, but not all of them do. Many of those changes could obviously be done much better nowadays. Digital effects have evolved a lot over the last 28 years, so I at times wish someone would go back and redo them, but the reasons why they won't are a whole can of worms. For the most part, the film looks good. Lucasfilm even did a quality job with the way they had to handle lightsaber action. The classic Cantina scene and its setup are great. It's a somewhat seedy and wild place. However, it gives us a good baseline for what to expect from this era of the Star Wars universe. Nothing and no one is really suave. There's a lot of charm and confidence to go around, but very little elegance with how much dirt the galaxy far, far away is covered with. If dirt's not on someone's clothes or their ship, their personal life or heart is certainly full of it. Star Wars presents a very lived-in galaxy with larger-than-life themes, and its visual style, set dressing, and cinematography reflect and communicate that. Also, the ending space battle is cool. I find analyzing Star Wars storytelling so interesting because its music is a character all its own. John Williams is a legend. A&H obviously has an outstanding soundtrack. It adds so much when it's present and informs your emotions so excellently. It helps transition you from place to place as well as from pace to pace, and pretty much all of its themes have survived and are still used in the franchise today. You've probably even had little bits of some of those as earworms before. All of the film's audio balance and mixing is okay, it's fine, but one thing you may notice is how the discernible fidelity of dialogue changes occasionally. Sometimes it's super clear, yet at other times it sounds very compressed. You can still always tell and hear what's going on, but I don't know why that's present. I wonder if it's due to what all they actually had to work with when remastering or something. Or maybe it's set audio versus voiceover. Either way, it's not too big of an issue. And you'll probably be too focused on how tight everything else sounds to notice it. Like lightsabers. What a superb example of fantastic audio design. Good for the eyes, good for the ears. A New Hope does a pretty good job at onboarding you into the story right away. George Lucas famously doesn't like slow starts. Him starting his franchise in the 4th chapter of its story is a great example of how he likes to throw audiences right into the action. Between Vader asking about the plans, you seeing where they end up, and what we're told by the crawl, it's a super good opening. And having now finally mentioned Darth Vader, this is a great time to point out that not only is his character written well, but he is crucial to the film. Why? Because of how he serves as a physical manifestation of the power and evil of the Empire. Having someone to direct your ire at rather than the whole something of the Empire not only makes the Empire feel much more present, but increases how imposing Vader feels as a villain too. I love how brutal right out of the gate he and the stormtroopers are. They're actually intimidating here, which is something our modern memes and concepts have since put a damper on. And while I'm all for the good guys beating the bad guys, I think, for the majority of the film at least, that the way the Empire is presented in A&H is actually really cool. Having a very good antagonistic force challenging your heroes and a good villain that embodies that is definitely valuable for any film. I also really like how both the Empire and the Rebellion are shown to be fairly smart. Both sides make intelligent decisions, so it really just comes down to what they're doing. Then, looking at droids and plenty of the aliens we see, they've got smarts going for them too. But intelligence isn't universally respected in the galaxy far, far away. That's not what earns you service if you're a droid, and not what earns you respect if you're a Jawa or some nobody farm boy. The world of Star Wars is in plenty ways very different from our own, and something I know many praise the original Star Wars trilogy for is how old its world feels. I think a lot of that is owed to its droids. Following two of them throughout the intro, both clearly with personalities, which sets them apart from generic sci-fi robots, was a good idea. Not only does it immediately show you how interesting the film is going to be, but their not shininess reveals to you the state this future is in. From their perspective, we get our first look at the galaxy, how big the universe feels, and how surprisingly not confusing it is. You've got ships, futuristic weaponry, old wars, and wizards, but the most important thing is that there's a rebellion and an empire. Storytellers say to show rather than tell, but Star Wars does telling so darn well, and also shows too, and does so fantastically. One usually comes after the other. There's so much to every scene, so much depth, different motives, different narratives, different developments. It's awesome. And so much depth to performances. Some of them are especially great, obviously so with all the content we have now, but even watching surface level without that, characters are very likable. It's nice that Luke is a very likable and relatable protagonist. I respect that he clearly respects his aunt and uncle. He's kind and he listens to them. But even with that respect, because he does have his own wants and dreams, there's some tension there. He conducts himself in a good manner though. There's some stuff going on with him, his dad, and Obi-Wan, and some stress between him, his uncle, and Obi-Wan. That's all really interesting. Both his uncle and Obi-Wan care about him, but they want different things for him, and he has to reconcile that with what he wants for himself, all while he seeks to help them both. Pretty mature for a 19-year-old, but he does have those moments of bouncing between wisdom and foolishness as you'd expect from someone of his age. What I find very funny though is how extreme C-3PO is at times compared to how collected Luke is. One is a robot, and the other is a young man who has been cooped up for far too long, and he's the less anxious one? Segue, the humor at A&H is very well done and not distracting. It's natural and it fits with the world just fine. It doesn't stretch to make us laugh. Its humor is all stuff that would probably actually happen that is able to be found funny, a lot of which is just laughing at 3PO. I'd say it's very well done. I enjoyed the deliberate dialogue and efficient storytelling the film features as well. Everyone but Luke's arc is kind of wrapped up before the climax of the film, with his being during it. Not only is that efficient in the sense that you're able to focus on him, but because of that, I find the finale all the more exciting. I'm sure A New Hope's writing has plenty of detractors, but I don't really find any definite issues with it. One of those things that I don't mind being the pacing, which is a common criticism I hear directed towards the film nowadays. There's a few things you've got to remember. First of all, this was the first piece of Star Wars ever made, and if it was too fast, it would have lost people when trying to introduce them to the galaxy and its characters. Second, for the time, the film was super fast. I've heard plenty of comparisons between its snappy cuts and A Space Odyssey's more pensive editing. Third, I think the pacing is pretty much the best it could possibly be, considering how much jumping around we do. I don't think it gets too slow, and I don't think it goes too fast. We go from an explosive opening to chilling in the desert. But the slowdown is important, because not only does it help us understand the emptiness of Tatooine, it helps us understand Luke better, because now we get his home planet. And we're also introduced to hooded rodent dudes, a huge dragon skeleton, and more droids and stuff. There is a lot going on. Even so, if you find yourself tired of Tatooine and are ready to be off it, well, so is Luke. You've got to remember how much started right here with A&H. It's got a great intro a long time ago, the opening crawl, and the beginning view of a planet, as well as a captivating ending. It's pretty awesome. If you were to ask a few people what Star Wars is about, you'd probably hear it's being about hope mentioned multiple times. It certainly is. Hope is one of many themes present in A&H that have stuck around at the thematic core of Star Wars. The ones mainly focused on here being, again, hope, but also faith, teamwork, adventure, and responsibility. You're not necessarily directly educated on one of these topics, they're just present throughout the movie. Never give up, never lose hope, keep sight of what's important, and believe in yourself and your friends. You'll surprise yourself with what you alone are capable of and what all you bunch can do together. If you have the ability to help someone, you ought to do it, even if it comes at the cost of your comfort. Also, there's so much out there in the world to see and experience. Being outside of his norm stretched, challenged, and changed Luke for the better, and the same can be true for you. I like Star Wars, and I like A New Hope. It's edited very well. It's really good, and I don't think any of its actors really did a bad job either. Everyone is a hugger, cruising around the Death Star is sweet, the space combat is so cool. There's so many layers to the film. My goodness, it worked so good as a standalone, and it did, but I'm glad there was more. Good opening, good ending, great film. Its worst bits are either just a product of the time, something that's weird in retrospect because of choices made in later films, or just a small mistake here or there. It's honestly really high quality all around. 9 out of 10, it's great. It's important that you consider it in context. It was radical in many ways at the time, and we still have things we could learn from it today. It's aged pretty well. It's meant to be a fun and inspiring time for 12-year-olds, and I think it still works incredibly in that regard. It's not perfect, but it's certainly revolutionary, iconic, very good, and very rad. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Few Minute Movie Critic. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more, consider subscribing because there will be more. Let me know your thoughts on A New Hope in the comments. Hope you have a good next few minutes, and God bless.